All right. My name is Tori Phelps from West Lafayette, Indiana. I will be acting as the introducer as well as the fielder for our debate on gift giving and ABA. By first introducing all the members of our group and stating their role in the debate. First, Heather Holm from Savannah, Georgia, will be acting as a summarizer against gift giving, while David Obregon from San Antonio, Texas, will be providing us with research against gift giving. Jenn Atherton from Evansville, Indiana, will be acting as the summarizer in favor of gift giving, with supporting research presented by Sarah Gardner from Decatur, Indiana. Our illustrator, Stacey Guidry from Houston, Texas, will be providing visual aids periodically throughout the presentation. To finish the debate, I will be acting as fielder and answering questions about gift giving and ABA. Before turning it over to Heather, I'd like to give the operational definition of gift giving that we will be using, as well as the definition of dual relationships, which will interest with our other speakers. TheFreeDictionary.com, gift giving is defined as something given voluntarily without payment in return as to honor a person or an occasion, or to provide assistance. It is something bestowed or acquired without being sought or paid for by the receiver. An example of gift giving would be a parent giving flowers to a therapist as a token of appreciation without receiving payment in return. A non-example of gift giving is a parent giving a weighted blanket to a therapist who in turn provides payment to the parent. In the mental health field, a dual relationship is defined as a situation where multiple roles exist between a therapist or other mental health practitioner. Dual relationships may also be referred to as multiple relationships during the debate. Providing a summary for the position against gift giving and ABA.
Okay, hi guys. So I'm going to start off explaining a little bit about the term slippery slope. So slippery slope just suggests that if you engage in behavior, it can quite often quickly end up with a negative or harmful outcome. This is relevant in ABA, especially with our debate topic and gift giving. If we give or receive gifts from our clients, this can quickly lead to either a multiple relationship or other harmful outcomes. The Behavior Analyst Certification Board's Professional and Ethical Code 1.06b states that behavior analysts will refrain from relationships that may harm or exploit the client. Boundaries should be clear and established at the beginning of the professional relationship, and it's important to actively prevent multiple relationships from forming. So behavior analysts or technicians should always refrain from engaging in gift giving with clients to avoid the slippery slope of negative or harmful consequences for either the client or the provider. This concludes my summary for the position of against gift giving in ABA due to the slippery slope.
Thank you, Heather. David will now be presenting the research against gift giving and ABA. David?
All right. In some cultures, and even our own, we try to strive to the ideal goal of giving a gift and expecting nothing in return. However, in others, this is not always the case. In the article Strings Attached by Kronk, several cultures are discussed about how when they give or receive a gift, reciprocity is something that is expected. Back in when Europeans were colonizing the U.S., they came over and engaged with the Native Americans. And this is discussed in the article. The Native Americans would present a pipe to them, and the settlers would then take and keep it, not realizing that the natives actually expected it back. The newcomer did not realize that the point of the gift was not to provide an interesting trinket, but to inaugurate a friendly relationship that would mutually be maintained through a series of mutual exchanges. Thus, the failure to reciprocate appeared not only rude, but also thoughtless, but downright hostile to them. Should a professional encounter this kind of culture, they must be aware of the implication of either giving or receiving a gift. If they are not aware of these expectations or customs, professionals see themselves vulnerable to misunderstanding boundaries or unrealistic expectations. Say a therapist receives a small gift from the family. If the therapist is not aware of the family's culture and has not set those boundaries previously when engaging with them, they may expect more in return from them, such as a discount for services, special treatment, or even babysitting, thus leading to a dual relationship.
Thank you, David. Next, Stacey will be presenting a visual aid for the position against gift giving.
Hi guys, I wanted to share a video that demonstrated the slippery slope that Heather and David were describing. This is a video from The Big Bang Theory. It shows really easily how quickly gift giving can go wrong.
A few silly neighbor gifts, so I'll just put them under my tree.
Wait! You bought me a present?
Uh-huh.
Well, why would you do such a thing?
I don't know, because it's Christmas?
No, Penny! I know you think you're being generous, but the foundation of gift giving is reciprocity. Like, you haven't given me a gift. You've given me an obligation.
Don't feel bad, Penny. It's a classic rookie mistake. My first Hanukkah with Sheldon, he yelled at me for 8 nights.
It's okay. You don't have to get me anything in return.
Of course I do. The essence of the custom is that I now have to go out and purchase for you a gift of commensurate value and representing the same perceived level of friendship as that represented by the gift you've given me.
All right, thank you, Stacey. The debate will now be moving to the position in favor of gift giving. I'd like to introduce Jenn, who will provide a summary of the research.
Hi guys, I'm talking about how accepting only small, non-monetary gifts such as edibles would be much less likely to cause harm or create a multiple relationship with clients or their families. Some examples are baked goods and replacing items that may be lost or damaged. Not being able to give or replace these items could make parents feel upset or disheartened.
Thank you for that summary, Jenn. Sarah will now be discussing the research in favor of gift giving.
Okay, so to kind of back up what Jenn said, some research I found was from an article from Offer Zur entitled Gifts in Psychotherapy and Counseling, in which he stated the most common gift giving by clients or therapists doesn't actually result in a dual relationship. Many gifts that are given by clients to behavior analysts are simply gifts of gratitude to show their appreciation for the services. Another article by Frederick Reamer entitled Eye on Ethics stated that many clinics permit their staff to accept gifts from their clients whenever the gift is one that can be shared amongst the rest of the office staff, for example, a plate of cookies. The only stipulation in accepting gifts like this is that the behavior analyst is to thank the client on behalf of the entire clinic to make the gift seem a little less personal. Several guidelines have also been set up by authors of the book Preventing Boundary Violations by Thomas Guthrie and Archie Brodsky to help behavior analysts and other professionals avoid the slippery slope. These include examining the monetary value of the gift, whether the gift is handmade or purchased, the characteristics of the client, and the appropriateness of the gift. We also have some examples of real life scenarios that we have encountered in our own work and clinical experience in ABA. So in one of our clinics, several clients have grandparents that routinely bake cookies, brownies, and other treats to bring in to show appreciation for staff members. And it is pretty obvious that the grandmothers simply just love to bake and aren't actually trying to form any sort of multiple or dual relationship, but are really just trying to show their gratitude. In another situation, one of our members was in a consultant where a client spilled the supervisor's coffee during a problem behavior. And the mother of the client was present, and she just felt awful and was upset and in tears because she felt bad that her son spilled the coffee of the supervisor. And so most parents in this situation, they felt it was their child's fault and wanted to make it right and pay for the supervisor's coffee. We had another situation at a center in which one of the moms of a client was upset because she received crisis management reports that her daughter was engaging in high levels of hair pulling. The mom then brought in hair ties and bobby pins to keep in the client's room so that therapists could put their hair up if they forgot to bring their own, or if they were assigned to float with the client for the day, so that her daughter didn't pull the hair of the staff members. And these are just a few situations where it seems perfectly appropriate to accept these small gifts while also avoiding the slippery slope.
Thank you for providing us with that research and the examples, Sarah. Next, we will be discussing the cultural impacts on gift giving. Heather and David will be presenting first to discuss the potential damage of giving. Heather?
Okay, so we should not only avoid gift giving due to the possible formation of multiple relationships, but also due to communication barriers from diversity or cultural factors. Cultural beliefs can impact the nature or symbolism of gift giving or receiving a gift. Therefore, we should avoid these instances.
Thank you, Heather. David will be providing a more in-depth overview of the research on cultural impacts on gift giving.
All right. In the article Strings Attached by Kronk, it speaks about the tribe from the Kalahari Desert that belittles gifts when they are given to them as a way of diminishing the task of having to reciprocate, actually having to give a gift back to the person that they were being given to. To them, when someone gives you a gift, it is as a means of trying to raise their social status, to kind of put themselves above their friends and stuff like that, to kind of show us like, oh, I have way more things than you and I can put you in your place. On the reverse end, this can possibly be problematic for us as care providers because we become invested in our clients' lives. And sometimes we feel that we have the need to, like, show our appreciation and, and reward their progress that they have made, and sometimes even during the holidays, giving them a gift. But if we are not aware of their family's cultures and interpretation of gift giving, we may put ourselves in situations where we may insult them, and which can really impact the relationship, the professional relationship we have with that family, and really reduce that rapport that we rely on to create the best therapeutic environment for them. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Jenn and Sarah will be speaking next about cultural impact. Jenn will be speaking first to provide a summary on the cultural impacts.
Thanks, Tori. It's important to keep culture and diversity at the forefront in both conjoint behavioral consultation and parental relationships. We have to understand that some cultures would be much more offended if we denied a gift, and that gift giving has different meanings across cultures.
All right, thank you for summarizing, Jenn. Research supporting Jenn's summary will now be presented by Sarah.
Thanks, Tori. So in any situation in which a client presents a behavior analyst with a gift, it is really important to analyze the meaning of the gift as far as what motive the client had in giving it. Doing this can help you decide as to whether or not it is appropriate to accept the gift. Since gifts in different cultures have different meanings, it is also really important to look at the cultural background of the client when deciding whether or not to accept a gift. Ofer Zur, in his article, Gifts in Psychology and Counseling, stated that turning down a gift may make the client feel like you are rejecting or disrespecting them if they're from a culture that is characteristically known for their hospitality and values gift-giving rituals. Additionally, Zur also stated that many rural or ethnic settings often readily embrace gift-giving as a common expression of connection and gratitude. For example, we again talked about this in our group, and one of our group members at their center had several staff members travel to China to create a behavior plan for an individual. And although they informed the family via email prior to going that they cannot accept gifts, the family still gave the behavior analyst gifts when they arrived. And due to the language barrier, it was unclear whether the family actually understood as to whether or not or why they weren't allowed to accept gifts. And since the staff members didn't want to ruin the relationship or come off as rude, they eventually just accepted a few small customary welcome gifts. In some additional research, a site entitled Cultural Savvy outlined the gift-giving etiquette for Japan, which in Japan it is not only do they often engage in gift-giving rituals, but they also associate a high level of importance with how the gift is presented and received, as well as what exactly is said during the exchange. Additionally, they also look at whether or not the gift was accepted with both hands. So it just goes to show that different cultures, we don't always know what their cultural policy is when it comes to gift giving, and that there's so many little things that they look at that it could be easy to offend someone by declining their gift.
Thank you, Sarah. Next, we will be discussing the potential damage of gift giving. Heather will start us off with the three.
Thank you. So, like I said before, gifts often lead to multiple relationships. According to the BACB, multiple relationships may impair the behavior analyst's ability to perform their services objectively and effectively. The behavior analyst may begin to provide either better quality services for clients who give them gifts, or even the opposite. They may become more likely to react emotionally rather than objectively, which will impact their services for the negative impact. The BACB specifically states in code 1.06D that behavior analysts should never engage in gift giving with their clients because this constitutes a multiple relationship. In the field that we work in, we work very closely with the families, and we work with them for long periods of time. And ABA therapy, it's just, there's more likely of a multiple relationship developing. And so we just need to always be protecting against these kinds of relationships. Closeness to the receiver can influence gift giving. Small gifts seem harmless, but the gift giving may increase in frequency or even as value as treatment proceeds. And so we should just never accept gifts and never give gifts to our clients.
Thank you, Heather. Up next, David will be discussing the research to support Heather's summary.
Thank you. As I also stated before, when a professional has not set boundaries with a family or taken into consideration their culture and customs on gift giving, the professional will make themselves more vulnerable to the possibility of engaging in a dual relationship. In the same article, Kronk states that some cultures, when they give a gift, they may expect more in return, which means that they may give a small gift, but they will also expect you to give them something of more value in return. And this can cause like a dual relationship. Say a family gives you a small meal after a session, you know, they may expect you to stay even longer and provide services off the books, and that could still be considered a dual relationship. Or they may even go as far as to asking you on days when you're not scheduled to work to possibly even babysit. This can be a problem should professionals accept a gift in the family, and they may ask professionals to provide services outside of what they do. By accepting the gift, they may feel obligated to reciprocate as much and do what it is that they ask of them. The article also discussed how during the Cold War, Russia and the United States used gift in the forms of aid for some countries to gain favor with them should war break out even more. Japan used the same tactic to spread its influence to other countries by helping poorer countries to gain favor with them in the event of having them do favors for them or back them up in anything that may arise. The general idea is that the first world countries are using their status and power to help third world countries as a means of gaining the upper hand over superpowers. This can kind of go the other way too, where therapists may use, provide gifts for their children, and that can put their family offset if the family cannot provide certain things that the therapist might be able to provide as well.
David. Stacey will now be presenting a video supporting research against gift giving.
So as David stated, that when somebody gives you a gift, they very well may expect something more in return. This video demonstrates that.
Greetings, Homer.
Hey, Fat Tony! You still with the Mafia?
Yes, I am. Thank you for asking. Now, Homer, as you no doubt recall, you were done a favor by our, how shall I say, Mafia crime syndicate.
Oh, yeah.
Now the time has come for you to do us a favor.
All right. Thank you, Stacey. Still on the position against gift giving, Heather and David will be discussing the possible exploitation of parents and therapists. Heather will begin with a summary.
Thank you, Tori. So oftentimes multi-relationships lead to power and exploitation of either the client or sometimes the provider. Parents may feel obligated to purchase gifts for their therapists, and therapists may also treat clients differently who either give or do not give gifts. Gift giving may lead to multiple relationships. Multiple relationships often lead to the misuse of power. And so in order to protect the client and the provider, we need to avoid gift exchange between clients.
Thank you, Heather. Supporting Stacey will be presenting a visual aid.
So this video shows exactly how gift giving can be used to bait and hook the receiver into a position less powerful.
Offer seminars half off. Give them free tickets. And when you present them with your can't-lose investment opportunity, they'll want to repay the favor. Your gifts are the bait. Play it right, and you'll get them hook, line, and sinker.
Okay, thank you, Stacey. David will now be providing us with research.
Thank you. So gift giving has the capability of becoming malicious in nature. Cronk stated that although the act of gift giving seems intrinsically benevolent, it gives power to embarrass the recipient and to force repayment has, in some societies, made it attractive as a weapon. Knowing this can be very troublesome if the professional is giving gifts to their client. Like I talked about earlier, they could possibly give things to their clients that the parents cannot possibly provide sometimes, making them feel inadequate for their child. This could lead to the parents becoming less involved with their children, or worse, they feel like they're in debt to the professional and need to repay them.
Okay, thank you, David. Countering this position, the debate will now move to a summary and research of gift giving.
Thanks, Tori. Our relationship with parents could potentially be damaged or ruined if we offend them by not accepting small gifts. Being paired with parents is just as important as being paired with our clients, and making our parents feel included and valued may in turn lead them to take on a greater role in their child's interventions.
recording.
Okay, thanks, Tori. So, an article by Offerzer states that by declining a gift offered by a client, you run the risk of causing the client to feel personally rejected, which in turn could have a negative impact on the therapeutic relationship between the client and the behavior analyst. In his article, Zer also states that appropriate gift giving can actually be ethical and fall within the standard of care. He also addressed the terms boundary violations and boundary crossings, which boundary violations are those actions that are always unethical and or possibly illegal. But boundary crossings are kind of that gray area and include items such as gift giving or appropriate gift giving, non-sexual touch, or self-disclosure, which are often appropriate and healthy client relationship and can ultimately increase the therapeutic effectiveness. Going to our ethics codes outlined by the BACB, there are two codes that apply to gift giving, with the first being code 2.15. This code states that behavior analysts are to act in the best interest of the client to avoid interruption or the altogether discontinuation of services. An article by the Zer Institute states that if an appropriate gift from a client is rejected, it could not only cause harm to the professional relationship between the behavior analyst and the client, but could also cause the client to end their therapy sessions due to feeling rejected. The second code that applies is code 7.02, which addresses the issue of risk of harm. This code states that if the behavior analyst believes that there is an ethical or legal violation, that they should first determine whether there is a potential for harm. In the case of gift giving, if a behavior analyst is worried that accepting a gift from a client would be an ethical violation, then the behavior analyst should determine whether or not any harm would be inflicted upon the client if they accept or decline said gift. If the gift is appropriate, declining the gift could result in the client's feelings being hurt, which in turn could cause harm to the relationship between the client and behavior analyst. And if the client is really hurt by the unaccepted gift, the client may end their therapy sessions altogether, which would cause harm to the client as they would then not receive the services that they need.
Thank you, Sarah. A visual aid will be presented by our illustrator, Stacey. Okay, I think we are having some technical difficulties, so I'm just going to go ahead and move on. Thank you, Stacey, though, for providing those other visual aids to guide our debate. And thank you, Heather, David, Jenn, and Sarah, for summarizing our topic and providing the research on gift giving and ABA. To wrap up our debate, we will now be addressing questions posed by Dr. Kim. The first question is, how can BCBAs prevent difficult situations from arising related to gift giving?
Our group decided that an antecedent intervention would be an effective way to prevent many difficult situations. We discussed, especially during around the times of the holidays or other occasions where gift giving may be more likely, to send out either a memo to hand to parents at pickup or drop off, or that we could take to give to them at their home, or even sending out an email to all of the parents from either the clinical director or a BCBA, reminding them of our policy, possibly even providing a link to the BACB so that they can read further if they want more information. But basically just stating that we aren't allowed to accept the gifts, kind of a friendly reminder to hopefully avoid some awkward situations and make the parents feel more prepared for if a gift is denied.
Okay, thanks, Jenn. The next question is, what would be an appropriate response to a parent trying to give a holiday gift to a BCBA?
As a group, we decided that the best response to a gift would be to remind them what the guidelines are. Our guidelines are set by the BACB, but at the same time, we feel that you have to show appreciation and politely decline it so as to not to offend the family member. Another suggestion that was provided by the founder of ATS was actually handing a card in response to getting a gift. And the card read, "Thanks for the gesture. You made my day, though I don't want to offend you in any way. I cannot accept, in keeping with my ethical code, the best gift you gave was the kindness you showed." It was kind of a cutesy thing, but it kind of goes to show that, like, we appreciate the gift that was given, and trying to kind of lessen the blow, so to say.
Okay, thank you, Stacey. Finally, we are going to give some examples of how to maintain strong professional relationships with our clients and families.
So we decided that the best way to maintain these strong professional relationships between the clients and families is to meet often in order to discuss their current and future goals for the client. Additionally, we also said that we should be sure that the family feels supported and to provide helpful information to address the family's needs. Also, we said that in order to maintain professional boundaries, we should keep the client's best interests in mind and stay focused on their goals.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Our final position on the debate is against gift giving. While we feel it is extremely important to be considerate of the family's cultural values and ensure that the relationship is maintained, research has shown that gift giving in the professional setting can be a slippery slope leading to exploitation and dual relationships. We feel that it is necessary to comply with the BACB code and refrain from accepting gifts from families, keeping the best interests of the families and staff in mind. Thank you for watching our debate on gift giving and ABA.